So, what led you into this passionate interest um, of actually education and learning?
So it's a it's actually a fairly complex, or I guess a slightly long journey to it. But it started out by the fact like my parents really could never decide which type of school I should go to. So by the age of 13, I'd done five different schools.
Wow.
I
Okay.
then moved I'd moved over to Switzerland, and there I went through the public schooling system, which meant everything was in French, but I never spoke French at the time. So
Wow.
trying to sit through learning mathematics in French when you don't understand neither the mathematics nor the French is an interesting challenge. Uh,
Right.
then I went through a bit further. I started and dropped out of university twice, once in business management, once in economics. I then moved over to London and I actually finished a degree, so computer science, and then I did my open university degree, which was a remote degree. So,
Mm-hmm.
or mostly remote degree. We had like 1 or 2 weeks a year in person, but the rest was entirely remote over a 4 or 5 year period. And at the same time, I'm a self-taught developer. So I've been building apps and websites for years and years, but I I did that, and I actually I created businesses out of them before I ever studied computer science. And so
Right.
the the idea that you can just learn anything you want online kind of for me comes from there. And I think it's very interesting that in the engineering space that's something that happens a lot, but it's not something that happens too often in other spaces. You don't often find a an economist that says that they're entirely self-taught and they have a nice position at a bank somewhere, while you
Well,
have self-taught developers that have great positions in different companies.
and lawyers, you can't do that either.
Exactly. Lawyers, you have the same thing. Right? So kind of there's the personal aspect that came and that was just there where I thought, okay, there's so much that the internet has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
None of the education experiences that I've gone through personally came anywhere near what the internet has to offer. So what if we could make that experience more approachable and usable to everybody else in the world? What if you
Mm-hmm.
could try and look at that experience of teaching yourself to develop and try and extend it across other domains and see if you can build a platform where people could become lawyers, could become economists based off of everything that you can learn online. So that was kind of just at a personal level. I thought there was something really interesting there. But the second piece, the second reason for me to look at education was that after we had built super awesome to a certain degree, and more specifically when I kind of hit the point where I had some financial freedom and not having to think about where the next paycheck was coming from. It was I was asking myself, where do I want to spend my career? Where do I want to spend my time solving problems? And where can I have the biggest impact?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, there were only two industries that kind of competed with potential impact in the world. The first was healthcare, and the second was education.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, After spending a few months kind of diving into both, I very quickly realized that healthcare was not for me. Reason being that it was going to take me years before I thought I could develop the
Mm-hmm.
expertise to be anywhere near useful
Yep.
and actually understand what to build. While with my background in learning, kind of the peculiar journey that I've had, I had much stronger opinions and much um, better intuition as to where I could potentially be useful
Mm-hmm.
very quickly. And so that's where I decided to double down and then started to try and figure out, okay, well, if education is where I want to spend my time, and the impact for me, like there's no industry that has as many ripple effects as education can have, right? If you're able to help people
Mm-hmm.
learn better, then you're having an impact that has multiple layers of impact down the road because other people can learn better, who can teach better, who can kind of go through. And yeah, and that's where I started, and then start to figure out, okay, well, where, if it is education, then what is the best place to have an impact within the education sector? And that's where we came up with Mindstar.